forth. I know that you're thinking you've heard this before. I don't know how to say it, so I'm just gonna say it, yeah. Fear you don't own me. There ain't no room in this story, and I ain't got time for you telling me what I'm not. Like you know me, well guess what? I know who I am. I know I'm strong, and I am free. Got my own identity. So fear you will never be welcome here. Take a minute, let it settle in. You probably never saw it coming. Something's gotta give, so I give up you. Oh, there's no room for you here, yeah, I've had enough. The no vacancy sign on my heart is lit up. In case you didn't hear it, here it is again. Oh, fear you don't own me. There ain't no room in this story.
Welcome, welcome,
I ain't
welcome.
got
Back to tea time. We want to welcome you in. Fluffed up the pillows. I'm pouring the tea today with 13-year-old, not 14. I posted that our guest today was 14 years old. I am wrong. She's actually 13 years old. 13-year-old Shelby Webb and her dad, Jason, are here with us. But before I bring them in, I just want to welcome you in. We're pouring the tea, and going to have a really, really, really good time today in talking about superheroes and empathy and comic books and all kinds of really, really interesting things. I hope the week has gone well for you. I know a lot of people are struggling right now because I think of the change in the weather and sort of up and down, at least on the East Coast. There's been a lot of rains and storms and things of that nature, and, hot one minute and cold the next, and sometimes our bodies can't adjust so well. So if you need to pour a little chamomile tea, and ease that throat problem, please feel free. We're, just doing well. I spent the week at a training conference that was very long but very, very good and very impactful. So I hope you had a wonderful week as well. And, I don't want to, belabor this because I think there's some really interesting, some good nuggets for you in this hour. So let me just welcome in Miss Shelby Webb and Dad Jason. Welcome to Tea Time.
Thank you so much. We're excited to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure. So let's lay the foundation, if you will. Miss Shelby has created a comic book and a comic book hero whose name is Sugar Glider. So for those of those of our listeners who may not have heard yet of Sugar Glider, if they haven't heard about her, they will very, very soon. What's the story with Sugar Glider? First of all, what's the name mean? Why is that her name? And what does she do? How did she become a superhero? Tell me all about Sugar Glider.
So we came up with the name Sugar Glider because one of her powers is that she can run really fast. And then because she can run really fast, she can actually gain enough momentum that she flies into the air and she can glide. And so we wanted to come up with a name that has something to do with gliding. And so first we wanted to do Flying Squirrel. But we couldn't do that because there was some copyright or something with Rocky and Bullwinkle, I think. And we decided not to do that. And so we tried to find another animal that could glide, and we found sugar gliders. They're these cute little marsupials. I actually have two of them sitting right here with me, my little babies, Flash and Chloe. But basically what they can do is they can jump up like a dresser or something and glide down to the ground. And they glide through trees and stuff in their natural habitat, and they're really They're really cool animals.
Oh,
But
okay. I think, do they look like squirrels almost?
they look kind of like squirrels, but they aren't related to squirrels at all. They're actually related to kangaroos and koalas and stuff. They're really neat.
Really? Oh, that's interesting. And their name is sugar gliders, or just that's what
Sugar
I mean?
gliders, babies, whatever, but they're sugar gliders.
Oh, that is so interesting. All right, so tell me about your character. You know, Miss Sugar. What is she about? Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that's our dog barking.
Oh, that's okay.
Sugar Glider is about Jordan McKenzie, a high school student who one day goes up into the mountains. While she is up there, there is a meteor shower that gives her powers of super speed, high metabolism, and an enlarged empathy. And that enlarged empathy is her most important power, and it helps her deal with the antagonists in the story, which are personifications of problems that teens face. The one that we are focusing on in our storyline that we're doing right now is self-image, but we will be doing other ones like peer pressure, mental illness, bullying, LGBTQ, suicide, etc., etc. But Sugar Glider, instead of beating up the antagonist and putting them in jail, she actually wants to help them with whatever it is they're going through instead.
Interesting. So how does she help? You know, what happens? What's the scenario that she's able to help people?
Her enlarged empathy helps her realize that they aren't bad guys. They're just antagonists, and they're misunderstood. They're going through something, like the self-image one. She thinks she's ugly, and so she gets mad at the world because they ignore her, even though she's just trying to make herself invisible because she thinks she's ugly. And so she beats up a beautiful car. She threatens some people's lives and all of that. And so Sugar Glider encounters her, but then she realizes that she's just troubled and that she has something wrong with her and that she just needs some help. And so Sugar Glider, there's actually going to be a therapy center for all of the antagonists. It's kind of like in Arkham Asylum, but like less Arkham Asylum-y. A lot less mean and all of that, and dark and crazy and all of that. It's just a lot more of a healing place, and she's going to have all of those people go there to heal and feel better about themselves. So that's basically what she's going to do. She's just going to realize and see past what they're doing bad and just see that they are struggling and hurting inside and all of that.
Wow. So where did this come from, you know, that this came to you to create this character?
I was actually bullied in 5th grade, and during the time that I was struggling with the bullying, before I started struggling with the bullying, my dad's best friend, Dave, had committed suicide, and I was very, very close to Dave. And when you lose someone like that, it's really awful, and I became really depressed. And then I went into 5th grade having this awful bully, and I became more depressed, I became anxious and stressed, and I just became an emotional wreck. And so my parents saw a light go out in me, and so they decided to put me in therapy. And through therapy, I learned that I could write, which I'd always loved doing, not only for fun, but I could use it as a coping mechanism. And so I started writing Sugar Glider to help my own mental state. But then we realized that it could really help some other people, and so we decided to get some artists, find a printer, and get it published.
I see. So if someone wanted to purchase, you know, or subscribe, how would they do that?
They could actually go to our website, which is Sugar Glider Comics. That's Sugar, S-U-G-A-R, Glider, G-L-I-D-E-R, and comics is COMIX.com. They can go to our website there, and we have special deals going on right now for the bundle of all three, plus we have some collector's edition covers you can buy. So you can get it there, or you can find us at various comic conventions here on the western U.S. that we're going throughout the summer.
Okay, good to know. All right, thank you, and we'll repeat that at the end of the show too for anyone who didn't have a pen handy, you know, right that moment. So I find that so interesting that Sugar Glider helps the people who are doing what we would call the bad stuff, the bad acts. And was that a way for you to see them differently in your own life?
Can you explain the question a little bit more?
Okay, sure. I'm sorry. When people do, things that we interpret as bad, when they do things that are hurtful, we usually look at them as, bad people and don't want to have anything to do with them. Your character, because she's helping folks who have done things that are considered bad, not nice things at the very least, did that translate to you in helping to see, your bully in a different kind of light? Did you start to see people who do those kinds of things differently?
Yes. I'm actually a very empathetic person, just in general. But sometimes I still get mad sometimes when I see my bully in the hall, because she made me so upset in 5th grade, and she ruined my 5th grade year, which could have been great because I had so many great friends, I had a great teacher, but just because she was treating me awfully, I didn't like the school, I didn't like my teacher, I didn't like my friends, because she had made me feel so awful. But sometimes it's like, you know what, that was 2 years ago, it's fine. And I think that she has some problems of her own that she needs to go through and that she needs to get some help. But most of the time, I still have some problems getting over things that people have done to me or people say. But the Sugar Glider has definitely helped me see that they're probably struggling too and they're probably hurting.
Yeah. Do you hear from a lot of kids who identify with Sugar Glider or who want to know more about her or more about you?
Yes. In my class, I actually have to job shadow someone. So I have to go to a place of work of someone that I know and watch them do their job. And so I went to my 5th grade teacher because I really loved her, and I went with a friend of mine. And we went there, and my teacher wanted me to present my comic book to these young kids. And 2 of them had come up to me afterward and saying that they identified with what I was doing. One of them had said that someone they knew had committed suicide when they were real young. Another one said that he was depressed sometimes and that he was being bullied. And it's really heartwarming to see that I could probably help these kids that are going through some of the things I did, and especially at the age that I went through them. It was really, really cool to see that I can probably help them and make a difference in their lives.
One of the things that we noticed is these last 2 summers where we've actually toured with the comic book and gone to various comic book conventions, it's not uncommon within an hour or so of us presenting the comic book or sharing it with someone that they'll purchase the comic book. They'll purchase like book number 1, and then they'll leave, and then an hour later or something they come back and they want the next book because it's so inspiring to them, and it's changed our lives as a family on the whole. We have kind of changed our viewpoint in reference to the quote-unquote bad guys. I mean, one of the phrases that Shelby likes to use is there is no such thing as a bad guy. Villains and bad guys have stories too, and there's a reason why that they are the way that they are. And if we as a society can look to that and flex our own empathy muscles, we can understand where they're coming from and not only heal ourselves through the pain that they may have caused, but we in turn can help them through the pain that they're going through and see what we can do to help them out. And so Sugar Glider kind of has changed us, and we hope to reflect that in others as well and help them to see that as well.
That is such a profound message. These days when so much of the message is about, blaming one group of people for something or, trying trying to alienate another group. And, you know, by putting out a message of empathy and understanding, you know, this is just what came to mind was the words in the Bible that say, and a little child will lead them. And it looks like Miss Shelby is really forging a path for this country to follow in terms of, you know, viewing each other with more compassion and with empathy. And I just continue to be amazed at the thought of, you know, someone so young being so mature in her outlook. And, you know, my hat is off to you, Jason, and your wife for being so supportive and encouraging, you know, and allowing this gift that she has to flourish, you know. So let me ask you another question about Sugar Glider, because I'm fascinated with this, you know, character. So when she becomes Sugar Glider, do people know that, you know, her alter ego, that she's this high school student, or is she like, you know, Batman, where nobody knows he's Bruce Wayne?
Two people know right now, right? Only two people?
Mm-hmm.
Two people know. One of them is her best friend, Edgar, who's actually based off Dave, my dad's friend who committed suicide. But Edgar knows because he does all the techie stuff for her. He made her suit. He helped her discover that she could fly because of the suit and all of that. And then another person who got powers, Morgan, she knows as well. She showed Sugar Glider her power, and then Sugar Glider showed Morgan hers. So there are only two people right now that currently know, and I believe we plan on making other people know. But of course, some people do have to know that she is a superhero.
We joked a lot about that when we were first creating the character and the alter ego, because one of the things that you see in comic books, for example, is like the Superman / Clark Kent. The only difference between the two of them is the glasses that he wears.
Right.
And there are so many comic book characters that are out there that are like that, and that it's like, how can the comic world be so oblivious to this superhuman, right? So we wanted to do something a little bit more interesting, and these powers are developing as you're going along with the story. But she eventually learns, Jordan, her alter ego, Jordan, she actually learns that she can change her eye color and her hair. So as she progresses with the Sugar Glider character, they'll become a little bit more separated in the way that they look. The hair color will be different, and their eye color will be different, and so there won't be that way to attach the two together to say, well, this girl has brown hair and this girl has brown hair, and they're never seen in the same place. You know, you won't get that common thread like you get with Superman and Clark Kent. So we're playing around with that and really making it fun for the reader to see the two characters kind of play off of each other and not have people recognize it.
I see. Interesting. Wow. That should be interesting, because you're right. You know, I remember, you know, my brother and I would look at episodes of Superman and say, how come nobody recognizes, you know, that do the glasses make him look that different, you know? So that'll be interesting that you do this, you know. So Shelby, how long have you been working on Sugar Glider?
I started writing it when I was 11, and the first book released in May, so it's 1 year.
Oh, okay. Well, you've done a lot, and you have 3 episodes out now?
Yeah, 3 books. The third book came out, FanX, just a couple weeks ago, and it did real well. And then we went to Wasatch Con, and that was real great because we were right next to Adrian, Ralph, and Thomas Estrada, 2 of our really good artist friends. And so that was just a blast to be there at Wasatch.
Wow. How long does it take to write, you know, a book?
To write it doesn't take that long if you really try. Like if you sit down and say, I'm going to write 5 pages today, and you sit there on the computer for a couple of minutes, it doesn't take too long. But you have to get it corrected. I actually write the script. Well, I'm a novelist writer, so I write in big, huge paragraphs, very descriptive. And then I give it to Dad, and he turns it into a real, like, movie script type thing, where he has, like, perspective and where the camera is angled and all of that, and who's talking and all of that kind of stuff. And then we'll send it to an artist that we like, and then they'll draw pencils, and then they'll draw inks, and then they'll do colors if we like the inks. And if the colors don't look good, then we'll go back and all that. It does take a while.
On average,
depends on the artist you have.
Yeah, on average, from the time we start writing the book till the time that it's done, it's usually about 2, maybe even 3 months.
Oh, wow, okay. Well, not too bad. That's not too bad. So what would be the future for Sugar Glider? I know you're going to continue writing, but have you thought about, translating her to, the big screen or, Netflix or, some other media?
That'd be really cool to have a movie if she gets big enough. But what we really want is to have like a whole Sugar Glider universe, to have more superheroes and more like miniseries type things. To have we actually want to have kids who want to actually write their own comic books for our comic book company that we have, and that'd be really, really cool if we get big enough. And of course, movies would be really cool.
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful because the younger you are when you start writing, the better you become, because the only way to learn how to write is to write. Yeah. So, that's wonderful. I want to ask you another question about Sugar Glider herself. I'm fascinated with her. High metabolism. What is the point in her having that particular characteristic?
When you have super speed, high metabolism is kind of a given. Like Flash in the Justice League movie, this is the best example I can come up with, has a whole pizza in his hand because he's so hungry and he can just run off the calories. So when you can run that fast, it's kind of a given to have that high metabolism. And we have a running joke in the comic book that Edgar, who also probably has a very high metabolism, he always has these huge Scooby-Doo Dagwood sandwiches. And Sugar Glider will eat tons of those because she just has that metabolism. And she's probably always had a high metabolism because she's a track star, so she runs a lot.
Oh, okay.
Like Michael Phelps, and it's like a pound of spaghetti for dinner and 5 billion eggs and all that.
Yeah, it's just just because of the muscle work and things like that you have with the super speed, you're burning calories so fast that you have to have something in order to keep up, or you'd crash eventually. And so it was kind of just a given to add that high metabolism, and we wanted to make it more fun and kind of comical with adding in those Dagwood sandwiches that are 12 sandwiches high kind of thing.
Right. Well, that's funny. That's really interesting. So how old is Sugar Glider?
She's in high school, so like 16. I'm sure it's sophomore.
We guess somewhere around 16 or 17 years old.
Okay. And what's the future for her? Will she continue to progress, or is she going to stay 16, 17 forever?
It could be like Ross, where he's 26 for like 5 seasons.
The idea is to probably hold her in that same kind of time frame, maybe explore just moving up into like her senior year. We've got a lot to cover as far as the different antagonists are concerned, and so we'd like to try and fit them all into high school. We have plans for some of our antagonists to go on and live normal lives, and then others that are actually going to progress into college or other adventures,
Mhm.
and then that's where they're going to kind of reside. And so we've kind of talked about both sides of it, having Sugar Glider stay infinitely young, like the kids from Riverdale, or whether we're going to have her progress into college as well. We're not quite for certain yet.
Yeah. Now, I was thinking that as Shelby gets older, it would be interesting to see Sugar Glider, kind of get older, and at some point maybe go to college, and what would be the differences, or would there be any, differences in the antagonists on the college level? Would it be the same kind of bullying, the same kind of peer pressure, better, worse? That may be something to explore. It is interesting to explore.
Well, probably some college kids go through problems that high school kids don't, and some high school kids might go through problems that college kids don't. Like, college kids probably have to pay bills and all of that and get stressed out, and high schoolers probably don't have to do that.
Right.
So we could definitely do something like that when she ages, that we could fit that demographic.
Mhm. Interesting. Well, what 13-year-old knows about demographics? Just
that's partially my fault.
Oh, okay, Dad, it's you. Okay.
I have a degree in business marketing, and so we've discussed market and demographic and things like that, and I try to keep Shelby involved with the business side of the comic book just as much as the creation side. It's kind of turned into a family business as far as that goes. My wife, Maggie, she just barely finished her master's in clinical psychology, and she was the one that gave us the idea of making the antagonists personifications of problems that teens face. And so she gives us a lot of input as far as how to create these characters and make them believable and follow kind of the clinical pathology that's involved in that. So because of that, Shelby's vocabulary has grown, and she uses words like demographic and stuff that a normal 13-year-old probably doesn't even know what the word means,
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Well, let's get to speaking of the antagonists. If we could talk about that for a few minutes. We sort of breezed over it, so I'd like to do a deeper dive in that. If we could talk about the kind of antagonists that you're, talking about, and how did you pick them, and why, and you said you're going to resolve them in several different ways, but why you picked the ones that you did, I think would be interesting to talk about.
So we're going to try and do an antagonist for every single problem that kids go through. So we're obviously going to do self-image, which her name is Lauren. And on the night of the meteor shower, she was just wallowing and thinking of how ugly she was and looking at herself in the mirror in her bathroom. And she had her hand on the mirror, and when the meteor shower happened, the mirror kind of fused with her. And so now she can change what she looks like Mystique. She's kind of like, who is it, Emma Frost?
Yeah.
She looks kind of like Emma Frost when she's in her full, glassy form. But she's half Asian, half American. And so that's our self-image character. But then we're going to be doing other ones like not self-image. I already said that. Wow. Depression, anxiety, we have that one all the way fleshed out. Racism, we have that one fleshed out too. LGBTQ, but we don't really know how to antagonize that one, so she's just going to be a regular character. And that's Morgan, the person who knows about Jordan's powers. She's actually a lesbian, and she can change into a mermaid when she touches water, because it's kind of like a hidden form that she can only show when she's in a specific place. And she kind of accepts that she's a mermaid, like, this is who I am, and that's, part of her closeted part and all that. So we're going to do lots and lots and lots of antagonists and have different powers for all of them that fit what they're going through and what it means to go through those kind of things.
Wow. Do you think you would repeat any with different characters?
there'll probably be forms of that'll appear in several of the characters. Like, we have one that's going to be bullying, and her main thing is she feeds off of the fear that she causes in others, and there's probably going to be multiple characters that are going to have some aspect of bullying within them, just from that standpoint of things. We have another character that is the epitome of light and dark, that is kind of going to be reflexive of depression, which we have another character that's specifically for depression. And so there will be ones that will have some aspects that are going to kind of touch bases on a few or bridge a couple of problems that teens face at any given time. Because, as you know, teens and kids don't face just a single solitary problem. It's just not bullying is the only thing in their life. They're also going to deal with the anxiety or the depression that comes with that, and other things that are involved. So all of these characters will have, bridges to other problems as well.
And there's going to be some characters who will be addicted to the power. Like, our addiction character is going to be addicted to what he has and what he can do. And so there are going to be some that won't be able to like heal from it, because sometimes your issue is always there. Sometimes you can still cry about what you're going through, and so sometimes you can't really get rid of that kind of stuff. And so some might reappear, but most of the time they'll be in different forms.
Interesting. Will you have a character who's dealing with, the opioid crisis is certainly something that we hear about every day on the news. Do you anticipate someone who's dealing with that kind of an issue also?
We actually do have a couple that will be reflexive of addiction. So it won't be like a specific drug necessarily.
Well, that'll be very timely, very, very timely, I think, and very responsible in the way that you are treating this, and I think a lot of people, I think it'll resonate with a lot of folks, that there's a place that young folks can go and be understood, that they're not alone, and I think that means a lot. So, Shelby, let me ask you, what's next for you? I know you see a long path of writing, but do you foresee maybe developing a different kind of writing as well, or, when you decide Sugar Glider is at an end, what would you want to do next?
You should see the look on her face when you said when Sugar Glider ends.
Maybe she won't. I mean, Superman never did. Well, maybe he did recently, but, Superman went on for 50-some years. I grew up with Superman, so, and I certainly don't mean that in, like that's going to happen anytime soon. But at some point you may decide you want to do something else, So even though you may not foresee that now, but if you, wave your magic wand, what would you want to do in the future, say 10 years from now? Where do you see yourself?
Well, obviously I'd love to still writing books, not just Sugar Glider, but like real novels and stuff. I have tens of thousands of notes on, like, Shelby, you should do a book about this. Shelby, this would be a really good idea. Shelby, if you could just get some time, you could totally write this. Because it takes so long to write a 400-page book. And mine is just 20 pages. And I would love to do some novelist things. But then I want to go to college. As of late, I've always wanted to be a surgeon. But now I'm like, Shelby, you're a little squeamish. You might not be able to handle it. So now I'm, like, kind of lost again. But I still know that I do want to go to college. I do want to experience having a degree and be able to say, yeah, I have a bachelor's in culinary arts, something like that. That'd be really cool. And then I want to move to Vermont.
And you want to do what? What was the last name?
Move to Vermont.
Oh, move to Vermont?
Question mark, question mark.
Question mark, why?
Really? Why Vermont?
I love forests. I want to live in a dense forest and in a cabin.
Okay.
A little bit of background to that is I lived in New England for 2 years, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, New York, and she's seen pictures, and I've told her how much I loved Vermont and Maine, and so she's kind of affixed on that, and we've seen movies and stuff that have actually been filmed in places that I lived, and she said, oh, that would be a great place to live. I'd love to live there. So she's kind of attached to Vermont.
Okay, because you don't really hear Vermont as a place, although I'm sure it's lovely and they've got wonderful maple syrup, but, you know, I just haven't heard it expressed quite that way. But that's quite interesting. You know, I think that's great. Vermont is...
I'm only hear people that want to move to, like, Miami and California. I'm like, no, it's too hot there.
Okay, well, I'm sure it'd be much, much cooler in Vermont and a lot more snow. And, you know, if you like doing sports things outside and snow skiing and things like that, Vermont would be a good choice.
It would be for sure.
Yeah. And in thinking about college, do you have any idea of what you would want to study?
Like I said, I wanted to do medicine.
Yeah.
Specifically surgery. And I was like, okay, well, like, I'm a little squeamish. I can't stand the thought of, I used to say, I'm not squeamish. I had one of my friends that did not believe in me, even though I told him, you know, I can do it. And he's like, you're squeamish, Shelby. Just don't. But, you know, maybe when I get older I can see that. Maybe I can do it, but now it's like, makes me a little nauseous. And I don't, like,
you know, yeah, well, you'd have to get through it, you know, from medical school and maybe high school when you take biology, you know, if you have to cut up a frog or something. But other than that, in terms of practice, I mean, there's some doctors who just do research. Not all doctors do surgery. You know, that you can do all different kinds of things. You may decide you want to study, you know, the brain, and you know all the different aspects. You know what part of the brain controls what function, and you know how you can make change in your life by doing whatever you know within your brain. You know there are just so many different things that you can do. If medicine is of interest to you, you may want to look at it in terms of what you can do, you know, that interests you as opposed to what you don't want to do. Because I'm with you on the squeamish part. I don't, you know, I have a friend in Atlanta who does regular talks about vitamin D, and I've watched seen him give his lecture several times, and he always has these slides, you know, where he's an emergency, you know, doctor, you know, from the emergency room and trauma surgeon, and so he always has these pictures of people who got into these really weird accidents, you know, like a guy was operating a saw and the thing went backwards and almost cut his neck off, and you know. Yeah. But you know the pictures are all people that he saved, you know. So right. Even though it's kind of weird, you know, to look at, you know, the positive part are these are people who were able to walk away. So maybe if you think about it in that context, that you know the surgery, although it's sort of icky, you know, is actually saving somebody's life. You know, that kind of puts a different spin on it.
We've talked about that. We've talked about her love of writing and stuff, and possibly pursuing that. We've talked to her about the business with Sugar Glider, and she's, as a proud father, watching her kind of take more interest in the marketing side of things and how to promote the comic and things like that. She's kind of starting to like that. So luckily she's young enough that she's not even into high school yet, and so her brain is always on flights of fancy as to where she wants to go with college. So, but the main focus is the fact that she does want to pursue a degree and go to college. So,
yeah, that's wonderful to be thinking, on those terms. And since Vermont seems to be the place of choice, maybe looking at colleges in Vermont.
There you go.
A possibility too, since everybody else doesn't seem to be on board with moving to Vermont. Maybe college would be the answer.
Dad would move back to Vermont.
That would be what?
I would love to move back to Vermont.
Oh, okay. So everybody is on board. Okay. All right. Well,
Not Mom.
Not Mom. She doesn't like the
She
cold.
doesn't like snow.
She's from Southern California, so the snow would present a bit of a problem for her.
Oh. Well, maybe you can find some place like halfway, in between.
There you go. Yep.
Like Maryland. Maryland has great forests. So Virginia is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful state. So, maybe halfway in between. Not quite as cold as Vermont, but with the forest though.
There you go.
Something else I was going to. Oh, Shelby, have you thought about marketing like items related to Sugar Glider? Is that
We do have hats and posters and shirts and all of that kind of stuff for Sugar Glider. So we have sold some of that before, but obviously people just want the comic and want to just read the comic. They wouldn't get a shirt that they have no clue what it's for. I wouldn't get a shirt that I didn't know what it meant. So usually that's what it is. So people usually just want the comic. And we've been doing free poster giveaways and stuff, and they like the posters. But we just haven't been selling hats and shirts as often as we used to. Plus, they take up so much room.
Yeah, sure. Especially the hats, I would think. Does Sugar Glider have like a tagline? An expression?
Yeah, there's no such thing as a bad guy tagline thing. That's her own quote that she'd say.
Another is Sugar Glider is a comic with a cause, so we kind of use it interchangeably.
I see. Interesting. So now, what's next for you guys? I understand something is coming up in September. Tell me about that.
So we've gone to the next level with Sugar Glider. We know that the comic book has shown to really help kids and parents, and to kind of bridge a little bit of a communication gap, which is Shelby's sole purpose for the comic book. But we want to kind of expand that to a larger market, and so we've discussed options on how to make that happen, and we've created a retreat. This is a retreat for the child who has been affected by the bullying or the self-image or the LGBTQ acceptance or whatever it might be, the one that's really facing these challenges, and then their parents or guardians. So we're looking at a group of 3 going to this retreat, and because it's based on this Sugar Glider comic, we want to focus on those kids that actually enjoy comic books and have that kind of pop culture. And so it's a 2-day retreat, and the first day is spent all day at a comic book convention or a pop culture convention. We're holding it here in Salt Lake City, and so it's actually the convention is called FanX. And in September, the first day will be the last day of the convention, where the parents or guardians will go with the kid, and they will be able to immerse themselves in this pop culture. And the idea behind that is to strengthen the bond with the parents and the child, to help them to understand the love that the child has with all these different things in pop culture. And really start to build common ground, to build a bridge with each other so that there's open lines of communication. And with that, going to this comic book convention, we're also going to give them a $50 voucher so that they can go meet some of the celebrities that are at these conventions, whether it be to get a picture with them or an autograph or whatever they want to do. And then the following day is more the clinical side of the retreat, where we will have various psychologists, motivational speakers, things like that will talk to the families as a group. And then we're also going to have breakout sessions where the parents and guardians will go one way and the children will go another way, and they will get focused education based on their age groups. Then we'll have them come back together and discuss what they've talked about. And then at the conclusion of all of this, we have a fantastic scavenger hunt that's actually going to take up 5 blocks in Salt Lake City. And we're going to split up the families into groups of 3 families, and they're going to go and they're going to do the scavenger hunt and really build up the community aspect of this event, where they're going to get to know each other and the families and stuff, and have a good time with this scavenger hunt. And then in conclusion, they all come back and we do a video of this scavenger hunt and what's gone on there, and then have a comedian and have dinner. So it's a fantastic 2-day event that we're putting together in September that we hope that people will be a part of. We're looking for sponsors in order to help us drive down the cost for more families to participate. But it's a limited offering. We're only going to be able to do it for about 15 families or so. So those tickets are on sale now, and we're just trying to get people to join up for that and kind of join in the excitement.
And if someone is interested in attending, where would they call or where should they go?
They can go to our website, sugarglidercomics.com. There is a link there that says retreat. You can just click on that. If you want to go specifically to it, it'd be sugarglidercomics.com/SLC-retreat-register. They can go directly there. And there's a good video there that Shelby kind of explains everything that you get for the retreat and everything. It's kind of a fun little video.
Oh, okay. Now, there was something you mentioned in there about, I think you said pop culture.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, what do you mean by that? What does that include? Like
comic book conventions, most people think of them as being nothing more than comic books and superheroes and stuff like that. Comic book conventions have grown quite a bit. Now they're more pop culture. So a convention similar to FanX would have popular culture like things from
Naruto, Doctor Who.
Yeah, you're talking about all your anime. You're talking about your science fiction, your fantasy. Wrestling is a part of that.
My Little Pony's grown huge.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. Just all the things that are happening now that are kind of what people would relate to as being geeky or nerdy type stuff. They can go to this convention and get all that pop culture type thing. Riverdale has been a part of FanX before. Just all sorts of stuff like that. 80s culture. You can find a little bit of everything.
They get Val Kilmer there a lot. They get people that are voice actors for multiple cartoons and animes and stuff. And you can find anything and everything at Comic-Con. You can find a booth of kilts. You can find a booth of, we know a person who makes dragon eggs and heads and stuff out of all sorts of things. There's cosplayers. There was a huge PlayStation truck there that you could go and play PlayStation. There's artists that have multiple art things. You can find Undertale stuff there. There's everything. You can find anything at Comic-Con.
Wow. So the retreat that you all are planning will be what, an opportunity for parents and kids to do more bonding, as well as an opportunity to address some of these things that the kids are dealing with right now?
Exactly, because we know that one of the biggest things with kids that are facing all of these different struggles is a lot of times they don't feel like they can talk to their parent or guardian, or they feel like they're alone. And so by doing the pop culture convention the first day, that shows the child that they can run around in this convention and they can point out stuff that they love, and that their parent or guardian is going with them and is totally immersed in this, so that they can kind of build that bridge or that common ground. And then by the time we get to day 2, they've already opened up the line of communication. They've talked to one another about all these different things that the kid is into, and then they can start to bond and strengthen those bonds when we are talking about those serious issues like the bullying and the self-image, so that kind of solidifies that and lets the kids know that not only are their parents involved and want to build that bridge, but all the other families that are part of that retreat as well. We're going to build a community with them. We're going to have Facebook page groups that are only for those that participated in the retreat. And so they can continue to build that community and that strength of the tribe that they now have together as a group, to be able to build those bonds to a larger audience.
Wow. Well, that sounds like very ambitious, but I think at the end of the day, very, very productive and life-changing for the participants. You know, really an opportunity for kids and parents to be together in a way that maybe they just haven't, you know, and without judgment, without, you know, oh, you want to deal with that stuff, you know, what's the value in that, you know, that kind of stuff that parents like to say.
Right.
Without any of that, you know, I think that it'll be really, really, really good. So we only have a few minutes left, and I want to give you the platform and give you an opportunity to share. Shelby first, and then Jason, if you would. Whatever you want our listeners to be left with regarding Sugar Glider and whatever else you want to share. It's just totally open for you.
Okay. If you are struggling, or your kid is struggling, if your cousin is struggling, just anyone you know, if they are struggling with any of the issues that we have listed here, with anything, you should totally go seek help. If it's bad enough, you should call a crisis line or whatever. If you honestly need help, if you're struggling, if you think you're going to kill yourself, you should definitely go and talk to someone. Definitely go check out the comics too, because they can help. They can give you a platform to talk about what you're struggling with, so you can relate with these fictional characters who are struggling with some issues that you are or may be. So just definitely go get help, and that you are not alone, and that I have struggled through those issues and I made it out, and you can too.
Excellent. Wonderful, Shelby. Jason, any last words from you? She's such a mature young lady. That's just
That's the thing is most of the time I just sit here and just say, yeah, ditto.
Right.
And
well,
I definitely want to mirror what Shelby has said, that you know, us as adults, we go through these problems as well. My best friend Dave, who killed himself, he was only a few months older than I, and he killed himself a few years ago, and that was a real struggle for me. And we've dealt with suicide 4 other times since then in our family and friend circle, and it's something that is there. And not only is it we think is something that those that are struggling with issues need to reach out to those who can offer assistance, but also be that person that is there that offers their assistance when they don't think that they might have any. A good friend of mine, Aaron Stark, he was almost a school shooter, and the thing that got him from his darkened state was friends that reached out to him and let him know that he was loved and he was cared for, and that if anything should happen to him, that they would be affected. And so always be that person that is there to reach out to others and offer your love and support whenever you can. And then, you know, like Shelby said, the comic books are there as a building block or a bridge in order to help parents reach out to the kids and kids to reach out to their parents on these subjects. So, you know, be sure to check out that. SugarGliderComics.com, or you can see us on Facebook at Sugar Glider Comic. Reach out to us. Let us know. If you can't find anybody else to listen to you, we're definitely somewhere that we're bound to listen to you and love to hear from you as well.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you both for being with us today. This has been just a wonderful opportunity for me and our listeners to hear Shelby and get to know her a little bit better. And I really commend you both for the work that you're doing. It is so needed in these dark and perilous times, you know, where it's easy to be dismissive of people. It's easy to be cruel. It's not so easy to stand up and show the kind of compassion and empathy that you have for people. And they have created a whole character that addresses these issues, I think, is wonderful, and nothing but God's work at play, nothing but God in what you're doing. So I want to thank you for being our guest today, and I wish you much, much, much success and blessings headed your way. And, you know, Shelby, I want you to, you know, feel free to come back anytime if you want to call me and say, hey, I've got this new thing coming out, you know, new issue or whatever, and I'd like to come back and talk about it. Always welcome. You know, I think that would be absolutely great. And, Jason, I also want to commend you not just for the work that you're doing, but for the stand that you take as Shelby's father. You know, the most important thing in a girl's life is her dad. And, you know, giving Shelby this kind of support and, you know, will help her forever, you know, because as she grows up, she knows what to look for, you know, in a partner. And there are certain things that will be not negotiable because of what you have instilled in her as her dad. So I certainly want to commend you for that, for the stand that you're taking and the place that you're playing in her life. So thank you both for being here. I just wish you much success, both with the comics and with the retreat. And you're always welcome to come back and talk about Sugar Glider, because I think she's...
Thank you so much.
Sure,
really
you're more than welcome. Thank you. And so to our listeners, you know, we want to thank you for listening today. And remember, everything you want is on the other side of fear. So with that, be blessed. We'll be back same time next week. And hope to see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.